So we all know the Pokemon type chart, right? Fire beats grass, water beats fire, and so on. Well, in Generation 6, a new type of battle was added where the type chart was reversed. That got me thinking, how would it feel to play an entire Pokemon game with this upside down type chart? Well, in this video, I'm gonna be beating Pokemon FireRed, but every type is reversed. What Pokemon will end up being overpowered with these new rules? Well, we're about to find out. And of course, as always, if you enjoy this video, consider subscribing. I love doing weird challenges like these, and it helps out a lot. Alright, let's do this. I chose Charmander as my starter this time. Since type matchups are reversed, Charmander will absolutely destroy the first two gyms. So Viridian Forest is interesting. Normally, I'd completely breeze through this area with Ember, but since fire moves are resisted by bug types here, I have to use Scratch. It still isn't really difficult, but it's pretty annoying having to use Scratch only, since it usually takes about 2 or 3 hits to take him out. Oh yeah, I also catch a Pikachu here. It's going to be pretty useful for future battles. Okay, time for Brock. I lead with Pikachu to give it some experience, and it takes out Geodude pretty easily. Unfortunately, Onix uses Rock Tomb and outspeeds the next turn to take me out. I send out Charmander, but he can't really do much, so I just take it out with a 1 Ember. Well, that went about how I expected it to go. Anyway, nothing really eventful happened on the way to Cerulean besides me catching my third team member, a Paris. Now, Parasect really sucks, mostly due to its terrible speed and typing. However, just for today, Parasect might actually be a solid choice since both grass and bug moves are normally resisted by so many types. And we get Bullet Seed here too, so we have okay stat. After that is Rival 2. I lead with Paris to paralyze Pidgeotto and then use Bullet Seed, but not only am I barely doing any damage, but he got into a few sand attacks, so I'm missing a lot. I do end up eventually taking it out, but with only 9 HP remaining. However, Paris's job is done. I sack her, then send out Charmeleon to 2-shot Squirtle, and then finish off the rest of his team. After clearing out Nugget Bridge, it's time for Misty. Charmeleon gained quite a few levels since there were a lot of hikers, so her water-type Pokemon didn't really stand a chance at all. Starry went down with 1 Ember, and while Starmie did get a crit Swift, 2 Embers easily took it out. I hope this doesn't just become like a Charizard solo run or something. That would be pretty boring. Anyway, fast forward again, and we're at the SSN to fight Rival 3. He leads with Pidgeotto, so of course, I just paralyze it and then use Leech Life to take it out. Second is Wartortle, so I switch to Charmeleon to take it out with 2 Embers, and third is Eradicate, so I just keep him in and also take it out with 2 Embers. Last is Kadabra, so I switch to Pikachu to test out my new Brick Break, and it one-shots it. Even though it has paper thin defense, that was still pretty surprising. Once I get the HM for cut, I catch a Spearow on the route east of Vermilion and trade it for a Farfetch'd. You're probably wondering why? Doesn't Farfetch suck? Well, yes, but I've never used one before. And plus, it's got a high crit chance and adamant nature, so it should make quick work of Surge. Not sure if I'm gonna use it anytime after though. Well, for a change, Surge ended up being really close. I loaded Pikachu just to see how much Thunder Shock would do, but he outspeeds and does almost all my health while I barely do half. I sent out Farfetch too. I didn't bother training since I figured he wouldn't have a hard time, but by the time I made it to Raichu, I'm low. I get in 1 peck before going down, so I sent out my last useful member, Charmeleon, and thankfully took it out. While I'm traveling to Celadon, I think it's a good time to talk about who I'm planning to use for the Elite Four. Obviously, Charizard is going to be good since it can learn a lot of different moves. Parasect might be pretty good, especially for Erica, although I'm not sure if I want to keep it for the entire run since it doesn't really get access to any good bug-type moves. Some members I'm considering using later are Jinx, since Ice is a terrible defensive type normally, and probably like a poison type like Weezing since it has pretty good coverage. Well, Erica ended up being a complete sweep with Raichu's Thunderbolt. I mean, that's not really a surprise, but wow, like, I was underleveled for this fight. Next is Giovanni, but to nobody's surprise, he was also an easy win. Onix and Rhyhorn obviously both went down with a Thunderbolt each, and then for Kangaskhan, I just had to brute force it since the only thing that's super effective against normal is Ghost. Thankfully, Static activated, which let Parasect outspeed after Raichu went down. Oh my god, this is going really quick. A little too quick. Alright, time to see if Rival 4 is also going to be a joke. I lead with Parasect, as always, to take out Pidgeotto, although his sand attacks did make me miss a bit. Second is Wartortle, so I switch to Charmeleon and take it out with 2 Embers. I keep him in for Growlithe since I already have Ember to get an easy one-shot. Fourth is Execute, so I try switching to Parasect, but he lands Hypnosis. Not a problem though, as I just use Raichu's Thunderbolt to take it out, and then finish his Kadabra with 1 Brick Break. Well, yeah, he was really easy, but I also really need some new team members. Yeah, I know that this challenge has been pretty stale for the most part since I've only been using the same 3 Pokemon. Well, 4 if you count that Farfetch'd I used once. But that's finally going to be changing as I finally get some new team members. Once I get the Super Rod, I catch 2 Pokemon, Grimer and Poliwhirl. Muk has a surprisingly good move pool that'll be useful for later fights, and I trade Poliwhirl for Jinx since it's normally a bad Pokemon defensively, so with inverse rules it should be pretty good. It also strangely learns Water Pulse, which should be useful for extra coverage, I guess. Anyway, after all that's done, my team is a lot stronger, so let's go and beat Koga. So I lead with Muk, which is actually kind of dangerous since he can also deal super effective damage with his own poison attacks. Thankfully, I'm able to outspeed and one-shot Coughing. For his Muk, however, Sludge doesn't quite take it out, but despite him using Minimize, I was able to take it out on the next turn. Third is the second Coughing, so it's obviously a one-shot, and last is Wheezing. He takes me out with the Sludge, so I decide to send out Parasect to use Spore and possibly take it out, but oh my god, even with inverse matchups, Parasect is still just so bad. I end up having to switch to Charizard to finish it. So yeah, I hate to say it, but I've got to get rid of Parasect. I know, I probably just upset like 5 people watching, but man, does this Pokemon suck. I've tried using this thing in multiple playthroughs, but it just cannot fight and just gets taken out in like 1 hit. Anyway, I decided to replace it with the Gloom, which now that I think about it, I probably should have done a lot earlier. I'm gonna train this thing up a bit so we can fight. After about an hour of clearing out Silph Co, we're at Rival 5. I lead with Gloom to see how it does against Pidgeot, and it does about the same as Parasect, which is pretty good since it's not fully evolved yet. I switch to Charizard for Blastoise, and this time I do one-shot it since I have Flamethrower now. Of course, I keep it in for Growlithe and also one-shot it, and then I switch to Raichu for Execute as it unfortunately annoyingly paralyzes me, but I take it out the next turn. Last is Alakazam, but I was never in any danger of losing. Okay, now it's time for a little boss rush, starting with Giovanni 2. Of course, since he has a lot of ground types, Raichu easily made short work of most of his team. Next is Sabrina, and you'd think she'd be somewhat difficult, but nope, Raichu completely obliterated her team with Brick Break. I was actually pretty surprised that I was able to outspeed even Alakazam. I mean, that thing like always outspeeds, so that was a first. And of course, Blaine wasn't a challenge at all. I evolved Gloom right before fighting him and managed to get to Arcanine without fainting, but I had some bad luck and went down to a crit Fire Blast. I wasn't in any danger though, as Charizard just took it out with one Flamethrower. And finally, the final Giovanni fight was a complete sweep. Once again, to absolutely nobody's surprise. The only Pokemon that survived Thunderbolt was a Nidoqueen, but she just used a weak Body Slam. Yeah, what a truly intense fight. And to top off the boss rush, we have the final rival fight. He for some reason chose to send out Execute after Pidgeot this time, even though Vileplume can easily take it out. I'm not sure why he did that. I wonder if the AI takes note of the reverse type matchups and changes its strategy accordingly. Either way, I still beat him really underleveled. Speaking of being underleveled, I spent the next few hours doing some stuff to finalize the team. First, I restored the old Amber to resurrect Aerodactyl. He has some good moves that I think could help in the fights ahead. Secondly, I used up most of my money to get coins for Thunderbolt for Muk, which should give it some great coverage. And finally, as always, I grinded up the team, this time to level 50 to stand a chance. Okay, let's do this. First is Lorelei, so I led with Jinx to use Water Pulse, although I later realized that this was a pretty stupid idea since I forgot that Ice doesn't resist water. I got past her first 3 Pokemon easily though, but then Lapras absorbed Water Pulse with its ability, then nailed me with an Ice Beam. Finally, after that, the 3 brain cells in my head came together to remember that Ice does in fact resist Ice, so that was what I should have been doing all along. It's fine, I still won without losing anybody. Second is Bruno, and unlike the Lorelei fight, this one was actually really scary. I start off by one-shotting his 2 Onyxes, but then his fighting types are a big threat to my team. I get in a Thunderbolt with Raichu before going down, then switch to Aerodactyl to use Ancient Power, which is super effective and does great damage. Hitmonlee then misses a Mega Kick, letting me take it out with 2 Ancient Powers and getting a boost. Unfortunately, I forgot to restore all of its PP before the fight, so now I have to battle Machamp with just Double Edge and Bite. I actually do quite a lot though, but I go down. I switch to Jinx, put him to sleep, then finish him with 2 Ice Punches. That could have gone really south. Third is Agatha, and my plan is to lead with Aerodactyl and use Double Edge, which is super effective against her ghosts. I one-shot Gengar, but take big recoil damage. I switch to Muk for Arbok, but she goes for a Sludge Bomb, so I go down. I switch to Vileplume to take it out with Giga Drain as she goes for Screech, then brings me to 11 HP with Sludge Bomb. I was sure that Vileplume was done for, but then Quick Claw activated on Golbat, letting me heal half of my health with Giga Drain, and then Quick Claw activated again on her second Gengar to one-shot it with Petal Dance, and then her Haunter missed Hypnosis, letting me take her out. Okay, now that was some crazy luck. Fourth is Lance, and this was interesting. I lead with Charizard to use Flamethrower on Gyarados, but it survives on 1 HP because why wouldn't it? This lets it get a hit before going down. Second is Aerodactyl, but for the first time, it's not a threat since I can just one-shot it with Flamethrower. Next is Dragonite, so I use Flamethrower to deal big damage, then go down and send out Muck. I think for a bit, then decide to go for the gamble and use Fire Blast, and it crits to take it out. I'm pretty sure that mattered. Last are his 2 Dragonairs, but they really weren't too bad, although I did have one annoying moment where Vileplume hit itself in confusion 3 times in a row, and then got fully paralyzed. That was a 3% chance of occurring. You know, stuff like that tends to happen a lot for some reason when I'm playing these challenges. I don't know, I just have terrible luck. Okay, forget about what I said about my bad luck because I don't think I've ever had a champion fight as crazy as this one was. So I lead with Vileplume and luckily he doesn't use Sand Attack, so I'm at full health for Exeggutor, and then Quick Claw activates, letting me put it to sleep and then take it out with Giga Drain. If that didn't happen, he would have just outsped and one-shot me with Giga Drain since I am 4 times weak to it. Because I still have Vileplume out, that means that he sends out Blastoise third, and now I can just use Charizard to safely 2-shot it with Flamethrower. Fourth is Arcanine, and it alone caused a lot of resets. I side Charizard, then use Muck to get it just low enough for Jinx to take it out. Unfortunately, he is barely in full restore range, so he's at green health when I send out Jinx, but I actually still get the KO with Ice Punch. His Alakazam then uses Future Sight first turn as I conveniently miss Sweet Kiss on the one turn it mattered most. Okay, so I think I might have lost. Raichu can deal good damage with Brick Break, but not enough to one-shot it. So now all I have is Aerodactyl to take out an Alakazam and a Rhydon. I take a ton of damage from Psychic, but he still has Rhydon, which can easily defeat me. I go for Ancient Power, which is doing about a third as he misses Takedown miraculously. However, I still need to use 2 Ancient Powers to be able to take him out. In a last-ditch effort, I go for Ancient Power again, and oh my god, it's a crit, letting me barely take it out. And that's it. Pokemon FireRed, but all type matchups are reversed. Honestly, for the most part, the challenge was pretty easy. The types in the early game aren't really all that diverse, so you can easily get through it with just a few members. But oh my god, was that Elite Four scary, especially that champion fight. I think that was the first time in a while in a FireRed challenge that I was about to go back to grind for the champion. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe and let me know any challenge ideas you have in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all later.